This is for everyone to listen, to learn, to have some fun and hopefully have some education. Hello and welcome to this very first episode of my podcast, Finding Your Range. I'm your host, Jeannie. I'm a movement therapist who specialises in hypermobility, EDS and chronic pain. And thank you for joining me on this very first podcast. So today you have me, but after today we have got the most amazing guests lined up. I mean, if you have EDS or hypermobility, you're not going to want to miss a single one of these episodes. I've got experts in their fields coming to talk to you about things that I think are important for an EDS hypermobile body. And I've got some very courageous and strong people who are patients, who are clients, who are moving pain-free or starting that journey to moving pain-free, and they're coming on to share those stories with you. So super inspiring for anyone who's looking to manage, take control of their hypermobile EDS symptoms that you may be experiencing. So this podcast, there may be people listening who have hypermobile EDS or different types of EDS or different types of chronic illnesses or chronic pain. This is for everyone. This is for everyone to listen, to learn, to have some fun and hopefully have some education. So I wanted to just spend today talking a little bit about why I wanted to start this podcast, why I think this podcast is so important for our community and how I hope it can help you going forward. And I'm going to share a little bit of my personal journey as to how I got where I am today. And feel free to leave me some comments. I'd love to hear your experiences as well. And if there's anything you'd like to see on these podcasts, shout out, let me know, and let's see what we can do. So let's get started. Why is this called Finding Your Range? Okay, so finding your range. If you follow me, if you know of me in the past, you know there are two types of range. Yeah, I might talk about range of movement. I'm a movement therapist, so I'm really interested in ranges of movement. Now, what I found over the years, working with the hypermobile community, which I've been working with for over 12 years now, is that just because we can, it doesn't mean we should. So we might be able to do the most amazing movements because we can, but are those movements causing us pain? Are they causing us to overstretch tissue and joints? So my philosophy very much is about getting people to feel control through shortened range of movements while they learn joint control. So we know that one of the issues with hypermobility is lack of proprioception, and proprioception is where are my joints in space, where is my body in space? Now, if we lack proprioception, how are we going to be able to control our joints if we don't know what joint control feels like? So I found the way to do that is to really substantially reduce people's range of movement. That way, we start to feel what a controlled joint feels like, we start to get control, we start to improve our proprioception, and you can start to move pain-free because you're not pushing yourself beyond your limits. So that's one aspect of it, finding your range. And it is your range. Of course, every single one of us is going to be totally different. So finding your movement range. But what about the other side of it? You know, I speak to so many people all over the world, and it's like, how do I cope with range of activities, you know, in my everyday life? What is my range? You know, we're told to pace, we're told to do graded exercise. That doesn't always work. So how can we help you find your range so that every aspect of your life is manageable and you feel in control of every aspect of your life? I don't think I've mentioned actually so far that I have hypermobile EDS as well, and some of you who might not have come across me before may not know that. So it took me 35 years to get my diagnosis. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about that a little bit further on, but you know, I've experienced a lot of what you may be experiencing as well. I certainly was a chronic pain sufferer, and finding my range, not just my movement range and control of movement, but finding my range in all aspects of my life has been essential to helping me become pain-free. So that's the big title, Finding Your Range. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And then there's another element to the podcast, which is called Hypermobility and Chronic Pain Uncovered. What did I mean by that? Again, this is really, really important to me, that, you know, there's two aspects to this word uncovered. A lot of time there are a lot of myths and beliefs out there about hypermobility still going around, that just aren't true. Maybe you've heard the one that hypermobility doesn't cause pain, or you're too young to be in so much pain, or surely it must be in your head. It's not possible to have pain in so many different parts of your body. Things like this. Now, if you have hypermobility, HSD, EDS, or another chronic pain condition, you will know that that's just not true. And so this podcast is about uncovering those myths, uncovering things that maybe we're led to believe, maybe we've been brought up believing. And through our patient stories, we're going to show you that those myths just don't have to be true. They are myths, in many, many cases. So that's one aspect of uncovering. And the other aspect is, when I was promoting this podcast, I said, I didn't ever imagine in a million years that I would be going on social media, doing a podcast, speaking about issues such as my pelvic floor, or my recurrent bladder infections due to mast cell activation. Those are things that are kind of private and you don't really talk about them in public. And yet here I am talking about the fact that I suffered with pelvic floor issues for many, many years. Now, that's another aspect of EDS, HSD, hypermobility issues that go uncovered up. I used to go to my doctor in tears because I would keep having infection after infection after infection, and I was told that, that just happens to some women, it's normal. Well, actually, it's not normal. If I hadn't been forceful enough to keep pushing for an answer and finally finding a consultant myself who could uncover that truth for me that I had mast cell activation, would I still be suffering and still thinking that it's just normal and therefore it must be something wrong with me? So I want to expose all those aspects of living with a condition like this that maybe we don't talk about, but maybe we should. We can help each other. I think it's time that, things were more open about our condition, because that way the medical professionals and, people we come into contact with can learn more about what we're dealing with on a daily basis. So that's where that part of the name came from. So uncovered, I think it's a really important word for us to deal with. And that leads me on to my story, and I'm going to share something with you that I prepared. But as I say, I'm a movement therapist now, but that wasn't always the case. I came from a corporate background, and I used to be a chronic pain sufferer along with lots and lots of other symptoms. I'm just going to share with you, when anyone who comes to see me, I see clients physically in my studio in London, but I also see clients all over the world via Zoom and through my online programs. But every client who comes through the door, or the virtual online door, fills in one of these forms, and it basically goes through all their medical history, in detail, about past injuries, conditions, everything that they're going through, and then there's a page where they can write in a little bit more detail. So our first assessment is really delving deep into everything that's been going on up till now. So as part of that, the very end, this is really for my use, but we have a little picture of I'm just going to bring this forward, a diagram where I write down and scribble on where people are having their main issues. Okay, so this is what it looks like, and I thought I'd just fill it in for myself. And if you look at that, it's, anyone looking at that would think, oh my gosh, how can that be true, that you have so many different things going on? So I'm sure you've got a diagram like this yourself. Feel free to share that with me, because I'm sure many of you have diagrams that look exactly the same. But the thing that made me laugh is that from the bottom down, so from the calf muscles down to my feet, I actually don't have any issues. So it's like, hey, I actually have really great calves and feet. Forget the rest of the body. I've got something that's working perfectly. So there is a positive in this. But, just going through this, starting at the head, these issues started when I was 12, 13 years old. Headaches, migraines, TMJ pain, my jaw would lock overnight. Started to get a lot of knee pain. I used to be a runner when I was a teenager. Incredible knee pain. I couldn't walk at one point because the pain was so incredible. And all of this was put down to growing pains, of course, and I was given some physio and some exercises to do. But nobody was looking for anything else, of course, at that time. Lots of people have growing pains. Started to get lots of chest infections as I was growing up. Digestive issues started when I was 12, 13 as well. So I was diagnosed with IBS at that age, and that's what I've always thought I had. I thought I had IBS. It turns out that, I don't know when this started, but I have SIBO as well. So that's only just come to light. So I don't know how long that has been in place. Heart murmur, lungs, pneumonia 3 times, left with a lifelong lung condition called bronchiectasis, 2 torn labrums in my hips, 1 hip arthroscopy, the list goes on, stretch marks, tennis elbow, mid-back pain. And of course, as I said, a lot of this pain, the muscular system, I have managed to rid myself, and I'm in control of that now. But of course, I had no idea that EDS and mast cell activation had all these other aspects to it that were going to pop up and start interfering with my life at a later stage. But, this is the issue I have, I think, is that, we go to doctors and we have a list like this, and some of you I know because I see you as my clients and I see you, online, and I know that a lot of you have issues like this and much, much more. And for the problem we have is that people aren't joining the dots. I saw heart specialists, lung specialists, physios, osteopaths, neurosurgeons, brain scans, all sorts of different specialists, and not one person thought, this is a bit odd, why don't we start joining the dots? And sadly, this still goes on. I hear stories today that people are told all sorts of things, and their symptoms are just not acknowledged, they're not put together. And so, part of my job is to try and spread that awareness, and that's part of what this podcast is going to be about, is spreading awareness so that we can bring, as I say, uncover a lot of what life with EDS, HSD, chronic illness is like for many of us. So I'd love to hear your stories as well about what you're going through. And as I say, if there's anything you would like to see on the podcast, please do leave a comment, drop me an email at jeannie@jeanniedebon.com, and I will definitely do my best to accommodate it. As I say, we've got the most amazing guests lined up. In episode 2, we've got the most fantastic guest. I mean, I'm not going to share his name at the moment, but you really don't want to miss that. It's a really, really special guest. So I hope you can join me for episode 2, where we're going to be meeting with this very special guest. So until then, I look forward to seeing you next time on Finding Your Range. And thank you for listening.